Commerce budget for next year, this year. And I would like to call up Sinead for a review. She had some questions answered from last week, and so maybe you can go ahead and answer the questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My name is Sharday Kane, and I'm with Legislative Research. This first sheet that you have before you is the response from the Department of Commerce. It has the Rural Opportunity Zone fiscal year 2026 budget line item, and as well as the success from the international travel. And on the back, you will find the positions that are currently vacant and what their status is at this time. On the second sheet, I provided you with the rural opportunity zones for the fiscal year 2024 actual expenditures. And I made a note so that you could see that student loan versus administration portion breakdown. I also provided a short synopsis of the Rural Champion program. And the SGF accounts as they are right now, this is where they stand. That's subject to change, of course, but this is where they stand and how much of that money would be reappropriated into fiscal year 2025 if it was being reappropriated today, if you will. And on the back, there is an EDIF programs list. And this is a document that shows when items were added by the legislature. So as you can see, they were either provided prior to 2015 session or during the legislature, the different legislatures you have. If it was in their performance-based budgeting specifically laid out, then I did list the KSA or bill that is associated with that. And specifically with the tourism project, that was moved when the 2022 legislature went from the Kansas Department of Wildlife Parks and Tourism and moved tourism to the Department of Commerce. And the final page that you have before you is the one with the headings that have agency, House Bill 2007 as introduced, the House sub for House Bill 2007, and then the adjustments that have been made in Senate Ways and Means. And if you have any other questions, I can do some research on those.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions, committee? Senator Tyson.
Thank you, Sharday, for the information. I'm going to start with the simple one, the Rural Opportunity Zone. What is the salary/fringe for $514,000?
Mr. Chair, the salary/fringe would be the benefits associated. So I can look and see how many salaries are associated with that program, but it would be the salaries and benefits, the health insurance, capers, those are the benefits. That's fringe.
I think we've got a problem here because we're talking a $10 million program and it says operation cost $66,000. And salary and fringe, $514,000 a year. How many people are working on that program? And I mean, I'm picking on a program that one of the few rural programs there are out there. The outreach and advertising, $31,000 a year. We could do better with word of mouth, with legislator just putting it in their newsletter. The student loan repayment, I'm assuming that's actual payment to students. Is that correct?
Mr. Chair, I believe that is that amount for the fiscal year 2026 budget that you see before you, yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And if you would add, pardon me, if you would add to that, on the salaries and fringe, the number of people we're talking about, how many were you talking about there? And are they all in the Commerce Department or where are they located? And good, Senator Tyson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't know if we could do it by this budget because we've got quick turnaround, but this lends to ask the question, what are the other salaries and cost for the other programs being managed? I mean, this is one of the smallest programs managed by the department. So I don't know, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you. If you would get that for us when you can. Thank you. Any other questions on the documents that was presented here? Seeing none, we'll move on with our president. Thank you very much. We'll move on, and I think we have Rachel Willis from the Department of Commerce. If you have any other comments or questions that you had that you can answer from last meeting, was continuation.
Thank you, Chairman. Rachel Willis, Director of Legislative Affairs for the Department of Commerce. Happy to stand for any questions, any other questions that the committee has. I will just redraw your attention to page 3 of my testimony, and the chart there in the middle. It addresses our actual, it talks about our FY26 base allocation. It shows you where the House bill ended, and then the very last column is what we're proposing. And again, I just would like to reiterate that none of those amounts in that column under Commerce proposal is an increase in any shape. It's working to take us back to our FY26 base allocation. And at the very bottom, you'll see the totals across the bottom. And we've had some difficult conversations on the House side and with many of you, and have come to a reduction of about $6 million. So happy to stand for any questions.
Do you have any questions? Yes, Senator Reichman.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and I'm just kind of, and thank you for coming to our committee again. I'm looking at your page that you handed out in the international travel and the success you had at that, and I sure appreciate all that additional information. What I'm looking down when he goes, it says at least 10 foreign capital investment projects has been won directly from travel and work on international business recruiting teams. And then when it says for Asia, it says $4.8 billion in committed private investment. From my eyesight, looking at that, it looks pretty good, what they're doing there. That's just a comment.
Thank you.
Chairman. Thank you.
Could you give us some examples of that $4 billion they're talking about?
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. So that one specifically is Panasonic with a little extra, some of our other work.
Any other comments? Yes, Senator Tyson.
So just to be clear, that $4 billion is estimated, anticipated, not what's going on now. And does that also include subtracting the tax credits that they get?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, so it is the committed capital investment that they have to make, because all of those incentives that they will receive are earned, so they're performance-based. So those will be earned. It does not subtract those benefits from that committed capital number.
So, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So that's not quite an accurate picture then. It's saying that we're going to get $4 billion in, but it's not telling us how much it costs to get that $4 billion. And I think the Kansas City Star reported $8 billion incentives by the time you add the state, federal, and local tax incentives and other incentives that that company will be receiving. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other comments? Seeing none. Rachel, do you have any other comments for us today? No. Yes, Senator Titus.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Apologies if this got talked about while I was late. What was the horse racing facility project that was deleted by the House? Can you talk about the scope of that?
Yeah, thank you for that question, Senator. So that's a particular project down in southeast Kansas. It was the reappropriations amount to carry over into FY26 wasn't there. So those dollars are still there for that project to be completed, and we're working with them now.
Eureka.
Yes, yeah, yep.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none. Thank you very much. Committee, this is the budget which we're going forward with, what we decide on today. And this is a budget we'll be presenting on the 11th to the Ways and Means Committee. So we're in deliberation now. So we'll go to Senator Owens.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do have a budget request to make, and simply put, I move that we add the $31,069,866 back into EDIF. This represents the budget request. If you guys remember this piece of paper here, that is specific where we actually see what their FY25 was, what their ask was, what 2007 did. And then we heard from Commerce, and then we heard that they prioritized the things that needed to be back to fully funded. And I've got to stop for just a second and say, you know, setting on Ways and Means, this is the first agency budget first agency that I've had come back in and actually offer to cut their budget. Not only did they return money from the 25 budget, but they have actually came to the table and said, look, we understand the need for cuts. We understand that's where the budget is going. And so for them to be willing to cut out almost $6 million of their own budget and put specific emphasis where they know it is necessary, I think is commendable. And so I'm going to move that motion for the, to approve the Commerce proposal for EDIF.
Okay, we're going to have some discussion first before we, well, I'll ask for a second.
Second.
We have a second. Yes, Senator Ware. Now discussion. Yes, Senator Tyson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to bring the good senator up to speed. We've been working the Department of Revenue's budget for the last few years since Senator Billinger was the chairman, and every single year they have come in with a lower budget for us. So this is not a first time, and I do not think a $1 million request just because they came in with a cut is the way to go. I've seen the numbers this year. And if you look at the last few years, we are spending more than the state is bringing in revenue. And so I think this is definitely not the way to go. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Senator Titus.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So what was the total amount again?
If I may, Mr. Chairman, it is the $31,069,866 right here.
It's the, it's the Commerce submittal.
There it is. Okay, I know I have everything. It's just a matter of finding it.
And so if I may, would you go back through and identify those which the Commerce Department proposal changed?
Certainly, Mr. Chairman, be happy to. So it was the operating grant, restoring that to full funding. It was international, as well as broadband and tourism. Those were the four that they had requested be brought back up to full funding.
So if I understand it right, the actuals from fiscal year 25 were $37,566,000. The base allocation was $36,866, and then the 2007 HB 2007 went to $28,163, and then this proposal would bring it back to $31,069. Is that correct?
Yep, 31,069,000. But yes, a reduction of approximately 6 million, 6.5 million from 25 actuals.
Okay. Any other discussion? Any other discussion on the motion? Motion been made and seconded.
If I may, just one closing statement here. In business, whenever things get tight, the first thing that businesses tend to cut is their advertising budget. Okay? It seems like it's the easiest, most common sense thing to cut in many instances. And that is often the absolute worst time to cut your advertising budget. And if you look at Commerce, at least from my perspective, as as our advertising firm for the state of Kansas. I think that while certainly there are programs that need evaluated and things that need changed within certain programs, we as a Senate have been given 3 weeks, and we have 2 weeks left to set our position. And I think that this is a great position. And so I close and move my motion.
So we have made a change here to the House position. House position was 28,163,923. Our position, the Commerce position that is under your motion is 31,069,866. Any other comments or questions? Motion has been made and seconded. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. With that, okay, thank you very much. Yes.
This is the appropriate time?
Yes.
So I actually have a written out amendment. Microphone, I'm sorry, we're just having a polite conversation. So sorry. Yes, I have an amendment that Amelia's going to pass out. It's been a very long day already. So sorry. Committee, this is a pretty simple amendment. I think you're all familiar with the maintenance, repair, and overhaul facilities that we've had, and if you've been on Commerce for a few years, we've added additional dollars to Wichita to be able to build their hangars and get their program off the ground. Last year, we added $35 million to Salina to be able to do that, and our third city with the longest airport in Kansas that's a part of this triad is Topeka and Forbes Field. So we now have, we had $1 million allocated last year for us to be able to do some planning. We've got the planning, we've got the match that we need to build this hangar, and it's to accommodate airplanes to come in for maintenance, repair, and overhaul, just like it sounds. We just call it MRO. And the chamber, the local chamber, the MTAA board, they are ready to go. We have some viable clients, but we don't have the hangar. And so for us, it'd be $15.5 million, plus then on top of that, we have local matches. We don't need $35 million. We've got local matches and we have other dollars that we're able to allocate to that. So we're just asking for, instead of the money that came out of the Salina budget, or for Salina out of the budget last year, we're just asking for an enhancement of $15.5 million to be able to build that hangar.
Senator Tyson?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the carrier of the amendment, you said it was the longest.
Runway.
Longest what?
Runway.
No,
Oh, sorry, runway.
the longest runway, I think, is in Salina.
It's not, we've measured.
Okay.
Because
we've
thank you for that, thank you for that.
We've actually flown the Salina runway, and we were told it was the longest
I know
runway
they
in
keep saying
Kansas.
that, but we have data.
Okay. We may have to go.
Not that it matters, but I will say, Senator Tyson, the important thing is there are only 3 runways in Kansas that can accommodate these planes. Topeka, Forbes Field, which we think is the longest, and Salina and Wichita.
Senator Owens?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So Senator Dietrich, help me understand, who is this money appropriated to? Who runs the MRO? Just fill me in on more of those details, if you would.
So it'd be we have our own airport authority, MTAA. They are part of the NIAR, National Institute of Aviation Research project, but this money would be allocated, as far as I know, to our MTAA board. And they would then expend those dollars specifically for the hangar. Do you need details on the hangar? I can get you a diagram.
Nope, it's just, well, I mean, you are wanting to spend about $8 million more for your hangar than the Highway Patrol wants for their hangar. So if we're comparing hangars.
It's not large enough.
Yeah, you're right.
777s.
Yep, absolutely. No, I understand. Just a little light conversation. So, so this would be in connection with NIAR. So Topeka would be working with NIAR to take on some of their work.
We have for many years. We were the third of that triad of the 3 communities. Started with Wichita, moved to Salina, now it's Topeka.
Very good.
But we weren't really ready until now. We're ready now.
Great. Thank you for that explanation.
Any other questions? Yes, Senator Clues.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and One of the big difference between this and the other $7 million project is the return that we're hoping, the jobs, what it can do in our community. And so I've been working behind the scenes on this quite a bit with Senator Dietrich and the other senator here, Titus Hayden over there. So anyways, and in conversation a lot with J.R. Clays, what they're doing in Salinas. So I could see this as a really promising thing. Thank you.
Senator Bush, or Senator Kane?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. To layer onto Senator Owens' comment of casual conversation, does it allow us to have the, our patrol to be able to use that hangar so we don't have to have that $8 million expense?
Senator Owen?
Yeah, actually, the Highway Patrol already has a hangar here in Topeka. The hangar that they're trying to build is actually down in South Central Kansas because they currently are operating out of an antiquated leased building at Cookfield. And since we've replaced nearly every aircraft over the past few years in the Highway Patrol, they need a bigger, more sufficient hangar in South Central Kansas.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Senator Titus?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think those of you that have been involved with me legislatively know I'm not the first person to throw out multi-million-dollar projects most of the time, but I would speak in support of this and hope you can see that the economic benefit where this program is started is significant. This is real growth, and I think it's important if it fits so well with, you know, our mission of we're not going to create all these new industries necessarily in Kansas, but if we really emphasize things we do well and grow those and become experts, I think this dovetails in with that plan. It was part of the original expansion plan. So I just think there are a lot of positives and a lot of ROI that'll come to the state as an entire entity with this. So I hope that you'll be able to support it.
And if
Senator Dietrich?
I would just add one more thing. You know, we have Washburn Tech here, so we have an arrangement and a partnership with them. Whenever there are companies that come into our area that need skilled workforce, they can create programs to train those individuals. So right now, we have the reserves at Forbes, right? We have our National Guard. They retire, they want to stay in the community, so we have a skilled workforce there. But we also have the opportunity to build a program at Wash Tech, an aviation program, which we don't have now, to help us in the future build that workforce. So we're kind of excited about that too. I just see this as a huge win-win. So thank you.
Any other comments? One comment that I'm going to ask, do we have any prospective clients? And could you?
Thank you for asking that question. We do have, and we've had quite a bit of interest. I can't tell you who they are because, you know, you could never do that, right? But yes, we do have individual companies who are very interested, and as soon as we have a viable project, they'll be willing to sign agreements with us to get going. So it's not all 100% NIR. You know, that's its own piece, but we have a revenue generating piece as well.
And then the question is there any guardrails built into your amendment that will say when you would start this program, when you would expend these funds?
Amelia, do we have a date on there? I don't recall. Let me look at that. I don't recall. Oh, there it is, June 30th, 2026. Right? Yeah. Yeah, June 30th, 2026. You see that in the very top? Is that the kind of a guardrail you mean? What kind of a guardrail do you want?
Well, do you have the client, when the client's here, when you can release that client, and then when will we expend the funds? We will commit these funds, but when are you going to spend them?
Well, it takes about a year to get the thing built. So we think the end of 2020, or June 30th of 2026, we should be able to get those expended because we've got the plan.
And the other question is, the House did not put this in their budget?
They did not.
Okay, so this is different than the House's.
It's different. It's a Senate position, a strong Senate position.
Okay. Any other comments or questions on the amendment? We do have a second on, we did not have a second on the amendment? Okay, do we need a second on the amendment? We have a second by Senator Cluse. Any other discussion? All in favor of this amendment, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was listening to the radio on the way in this morning, and they were talking about the money that went to the World Cup tournament. Excuse me. And I can't remember how much it was that the state ended up finally giving, if they could give us that number. And you asked for guardrails. We don't put many guardrails on these projects. There's no clawback. We just turned over $15 million for this project. So I'm just curious where we're at with the World Soccer Cup. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
As research, does he have any information on that? Today?
Mr. Chair, I will look that up right now.
Okay, thank you. While we're waiting on that information, we do have a meeting scheduled for tomorrow and for Wednesday and Thursday this week. We've got some bills that are coming over from the House, and we will be working those, so at least hearing those. So while we're waiting on that information, also, are there any other amendments to this bill? Yes, Senator Titus.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. One of the programs I would like to look at, I talked about not spending money, and here I am again, but one of the things that has stuck out to me was the cuts to the Sunflower Summer Program. I think this is a really beneficial program. It's helpful to families in the summer. I think exposing these facilities to Kansan leads to repeat businesses and make sure they're self-sufficient over time. And it's something I'd like to see keep going because I think it's been really successful at highlighting the various entities in the state. So I would make a motion to add $2 million from EDIF for the Sunflower Summer Program for fiscal year 2026.
Okay. Motion been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Yes, Senator Ware.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You know, I've been watching this program for, it's been in action for 2 years, and the talk about it for at least a year ahead of that, being on the Tourism Council. And the value, yes, it gives families something to do. It helps the attraction all over the state. But beyond that, it's an incredible educational opportunity for the whole family. And its value, it also is added through the ripples of a dinner that they grab or a hotel stay or any number of things. So I think I love this idea, and I frankly was just about to say something myself, so I'm thrilled that you did, Senator.
Any other comments? Senator Reichman.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And I'd like to kind of have you go over me again, explain that Sunflower Summer Program. Are we talking about putting the $1 million back in where the House took out in 2007, or I'm just a little confused here? Help me out.
Yeah, I'm proposing to put, the agency had requested $3 million to operate the program as it did in the last year. The House took that down to a $500,000 add-on, as was their final position. If I had that, did I get confused in sheets? $1 million. So I'm proposing the $2 million to put it back up to the level, because my and then maybe Commerce can explain if necessary, but they would have to cut down the number of venues that participate if we were to reduce the funding.
Okay. Well, I'm looking at this sheet here and a budget request. It had them 3,000, and the House took it back to 1 million, and then Commerce proposal was another 1 million. If we're on the same page, I'm not quite sure what we're talking about here.
So, Rachel, if you would you come up and maybe comment on the Sunflower Summer Program?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, our initial request was for $3 million to run the program. The House took it down to $1 million, and we just asked that it at least stays at $1 million. We think it's an extremely valuable program. We were considering ways that we could reduce that budget. So currently, right now, we reimburse the venues for, of course, all the children that attend, and then the up to two adults that accompany them. And so one of our thoughts was that we could just cover the cost of one adult. But it's an incredibly valuable program. We saw the numbers increase across the board, both in the number of attractions or venues that were participating, as well as the number of visitors. So we would be thrilled to have some additional dollars.
Rachel, could you give us some examples of return on investment?
Yes, sir. Let me find my numbers here. So not specifically return on investment, I can give you some participation numbers. So last year we had right at 500,000 tickets claimed, which was a 55% increase from the previous year. We had 223 participating attractions, which was a 97% increase from last year. 176 of those are rural attractions, and 47 are in our larger areas. The overall, almost 90% of attractions just reported an increase in their own visitation due to this summer program.
Yes, Senator Tyson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So what we're going to ask our constituents at home that are struggling with their property taxes, purchasing food, purchasing medicine, we're going to ask them to pay for these tickets for these museums and sites with taxpayer dollars so kids can go to the museums in the summer. Is that correct?
My understanding of what the program is. Also, was there other things that you get when they come in? You say museums, as you mentioned, but are there any other things that is included in that packet?
Yes, sir. So that it's museums, it's zoos, it's lots of kind of your local attractions. So like the salt mines in Hutch, the Salina Zoo, some of your more nonprofit, really rural places. So like the little log cabin, kind of north central Kansas. All of those places are included in the program.
Are there any, I'm going to use the word guardrails again on this, that say they have to be from out of county perhaps to get that, or is it anybody that asks for that?
Yeah, so it's anyone that downloads that app, and that child and those guardians can only visit one time. So once they use that, there's a QR code that's scanned, that they see that app that the attraction uses, and that's how they report it back to the Department of Commerce, and then the Commerce reimburses them for those costs.
Senator Owens.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, you know, it's interesting that listed right below that Sunflower Summer Program on this sheet is the Love Kansas marketing campaign. And I'll be 100% honest, I'd much rather see that $2 million go here, because from my perspective, first of all, when we looked at last year's results of that Love Kansas marketing campaign, it was $48,000 per family that we spent to recruit them to Kansas. So when we think about investing this money, I could call this the Love Kansas Sunflower Summer Program, because really we're getting our families, our children to love Kansas through the things that we offer. And so I think that there really is a lot of benefit to continuing to fund this, and the way I see it, move money from one place to another. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any other comments? Yes, Senator Tyson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It would not be defunded. They would still receive $1 million. It's just not the increase that's being asked.
Senator Camp.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think to layer on to Senator Tyson's comments, we're suggesting giving more than Commerce is asking for in this moment. And I do feel when we do these kinds of things that we should have a stronger ROI to help support the cause when we're dealing in millions. So it feels like there's a good opportunity here to kind of push back, fall in line with where Commerce is current. I know they want more, but they're comfortable with where they're currently at. Seems like that's a good number for this time, and really push on ROIs yes, sir, that justify the position. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Senator Titus, do you have? Oh, okay. Any other comments or questions?
So, thank you, Mr. Chair. I would just say in closing that, there's things we spend money on, and some of them are smarter investments than others. But I think if you look at, particularly if you have a large family, this is not property tax related, but if you are struggling, this might be the difference between dad waiting in the car while mom goes in with the kids, for the free, because they don't want to pay the $35 or whatever the fee is at any given place. We're not making substantial investments in childcare this year. There's a lot of things out there that are impacting families, but this is something we can do to get people in communities and maybe make vacation a little bit easier. You're providing educational opportunities. And as far as rating investments, I think Senator Owens gives an excellent example. To me, this is a smart use of state money. Thank you. I close.
Okay, motion been made and seconded. Any other comments? All in favor? Say aye. Aye. Opposed? I have motion passes. It passed. I got three opposed. Okay. Okay. Any other comments? Did we have, Chardonnay, you got your information back?
Mr. Chair, for the World Cup in fiscal year 2024, 10 million SGF for World Cup planning and area improvements. For fiscal year 2025, it would be 10 million off from federal ARPA to go to the Kansas City 2026 Commission. And for 2026, it's 18 million off from federal ARPA to go to the Kansas City 2026 Commission.
Tyson, do you have a question?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So that's a total of 38 million to go to the World Cup from Kansas taxpayers, right?
Mr. Chair, the 38 million total is correct.
I just wanted to make sure. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Any other amendments? Yes, sir. We are ready for motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we pass out favorably the commerce budget as amended to the full Senate Ways and Means.
We have a second by Senator Klemp. Any other questions or comments? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. With that, we have hearings. We will have a hearing tomorrow. I do not have the, first of all, I want to introduce to the committee Colette. Colette has graciously filled in for Connie today, and we definitely appreciate her efforts. So thank you for that. And Connie, hopefully will be back tomorrow, and we'll get, but we will work on bills that have been received from the House tomorrow. We'll have that list shortly. We'll try to get those back out there. So if that, no other.
Do we know what bills tomorrow?
Well, I do not have the list right now with me. Maybe we'll get one. This is the one, okay. Okay, on March 4th, we have a hearing on Senate Bill 2092. House Bill 2092, and then House Bill 2117. And then on March 5th, we took care of that, so we will bring some other bills in and have a hearing on that for March 5th. We had recommendations for commerce budget, but we're going to go ahead and probably make another hearing for House bills on that, and we'll get those studied. But tomorrow, we got those two bills. So if there's another business, we are adjourned.